Oh, back again, are ya?
Yes, hello.
I've heard all about your investigations. I wrote the report just now. You found him, eh, Vigil?
Yes, luckily.
Well, anywho, the laddie done it doesn't work here no more, so your case is new to do with Barkley. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that.
Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop.
Aye, Kemmer, you can very well. So, how about a wee handcuff biscuit?
Oh, they really are like little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too.
So, what's brought you down here today?
Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually.
Is that so?
We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. I think it's been called the Asogi Papers or something.
Did I not say Gregson's death is not to do with things that might have happened at Barkley? Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not fool about with irrelevant details.
His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. Alright. Since we didn't get a chance to last time, let's try to examine the office. This grandfather clock is fitted with a terrifying blade that keeps dropping down.
It's modeled on the guillotine, a French execution device. You might have heard of it. And yes, afore you ask, it can chop.
Heads off, you mean?
Havers, no. Carrots and parsnips and so forth.
Oh.
If you place a large carrot at the bottom there in the morning, by evening it'll have been cut clean in two.
Well, the blade must have an almost indescribable edge on it then. Huh. An axe, a hunting rifle, and 4 pairs of handcuffs. That's a daunting collection.
Ah, there's a story behind every one of those.
You mean the rifle was a famous killer's murder weapon, and the axe was wielded by an infamous executioner? And the handcuffs were once used to immobilize a fierce 4-legged beast when it was arrested? I think you're in the realms of fantasy now, Mr. Naruhodo.
Not those kinds of stories, Jimmy. The axe was the one that I used to chop down the cherry tree at my house. Mrs. Caden wasn't past pleased.
Oh.
And the cuffs on the left are the ones I caught my first burglar with when I was a bobby.
The stories were a little different to those you imagined, I think, weren't they? Yeah, to my relief, and in some small way, my disappointment. Oh well. I suppose these are all former governors of Barkley Prison, are they? Either that, or former inmates who the governor has sent to the gallows. Oh dear, they all have such severe expressions, I really couldn't deny either possibility. Especially the one on the extreme right. His expression goes beyond severe in a whole new territory.
That one's me!
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, sir. Is it a prerequisite of the job, perhaps? Having a severe expression, I mean?
Of course it's not. Although, it is taken into consideration.
A lot. I'd never have expected to find a parrot in a prison. It must be the governor's pet. Given where we are, it's hard not to see the poor creature as a prisoner.
Let me out! Don't kill me!
Oh! Has the bird learned to mimic the plaintive cries of the inmates in the cells?
Och no. He was one of 3 siblings, you see. And he still calls out the names of his 2 brothers like that all the time.
Right.
Let me out! Don't kill me! Aye. I hear you, laddie. You want your dinner, eh? Don't you do it?
Okay. Let's just move on from that. A Scottish parrot. That deer has been staring at me for a while now. It has. The poor thing can't fit through the small hole in the wall, but it can't get its head back out again now either. It's giving me a woefully imploring look. It's not real, Mr. Naruhodo. It's stuffed. What? I mean, yeah, of course it is. For a moment, I thought it was another assassin sneaking in by the ventilator. I don't like to say, but I think perhaps you need to reread The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. That's a very large cabinet full of papers, isn't it? It's labeled Inmate Register, look. And all the files are in alphabetical order.
That's 50 years worth of records of Barclay's inmates. Whether or no they're left alive after serving their term. All the details about the crimes they committed are recorded in there, like an epitaph, you might say.
A record of crimes and punishments. How dispiriting. And yet, this man seems to be enjoying tea and biscuits as he talks about it. Alright, I think we're done. So,
that murderous botched execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, aye. A shocking embarrassment.
because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean?
Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution caught in his scythe, and my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair.
But Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it.
The rascal wouldn't say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs?
Oh, how could I say no? You could never have too much iron in your diet. When Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal note as a result of what happened, he was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he?
I don't know that to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you not think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do.
You wouldn't say otherwise though, would you?
Of course, I can't show no responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that kens what went on at the time now. Whit Gregson had been murdered, and Dr. Scythe forbidden from having any visitors.
No visitors. Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed.
And I wouldn't dream of sending you packing with Nat Kimmer. Here, take a handcuff or two.
Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to become anemic.
I suppose, if there's anybody who might still ken boot what happened back then, it'd be that lass from the forensic division, Maria Gorey.
Maria Gorey?
Aye, Scythe's daughter. She didn't have no more, just the one. but the wee bairns followed in her mum's footsteps. You didn't ever see her with that scalp in her hand.
Mama, what is this?
Oh, where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Dr. Slythe's daughter, Maria Gory. We could do with talking to her. So, she's Dr. Slythe's daughter, but her surname is Gory?
Aye, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I dinna ken the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her mum working with the bodies of folk who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I can't understand it myself.
Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother.
Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe.
Right, and the coroner responsible for this incomplete report.
Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her mum's stories about cutting of bodies. There's even a rumour that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby.
Well, then perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago.
Aye, I'd say there's fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us.
We really need to speak to Miss Gory herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much.
I'm not happy about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you not get up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions.
I'm sorry. I don't like dredging up those painful memories for everyone.
Can you not just stay away now? Leave me alone and then come back here, eh?
Not yet.
How do you come to ken about that, laddie? There's no many folk even here in the prison who've heard of those papers.
Well, I can't tell him Mr. Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir.
Huh.
We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin Asogi's...
Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy.
Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it?
Heavens no. You're off at half clock there. I think you didn't get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been.
Oh, not what we heard elsewhere.
Let me just have a wee poke round in here. I'm sure I can find it. Aye, here you are. See?
The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush.
Of course, I cannot read a word of those Japanese squiggles, but I mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland.
Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Sogi papers?
Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Sogi, no doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. After all the star mush of the old slaster of an execution, we sent a man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it.
I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case.
One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes?
Those papers are new to do with Gregson's death. I'd prefer it if it didn't make no mention of them outside this office. Or rather, I wouldn't just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest levels of our government.
I understand. Huh. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Interesting. Should I try presenting this to him? Let's see. Governor Caden, would you have a look at this?
Ugh, wouldn't you rather have a wee handcuff biscuit?
No thanks. I'd rather you just cast your eyes over this.
Or maybe you prefer real handcuffs, eh?
No, neither for me, please. Lovely offers, though. How about this? Governor Caden, look at this. Okay. So I guess we gotta come back later, maybe. Maybe we go talk to Gory. Oh, it's not on the map yet. I guess we gotta visit Lord Strongheart first. Sure, why not?
No arguments, Prosecutor Asogi. You will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear?
Perfectly. It's Kazuma-sama. Defying Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down.
On your way now, Asogi.
My lord. Alright. He left without saying a word.
Yes, what are you doing here?
Well, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions if you wouldn't mind.
I wanted Van Zeek's trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary.
Unwelcome inquiries.
As a result, I am losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes and 41 seconds. 42, 43.
Then we must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo. In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Does Prosecutor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zeeks is the Reaper?
I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago, in that fateful close trial, that Lord Van Zeeks made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress.
Well, that's awful.
The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days.
Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place of work, I believe.
Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey.
And people believed Lord Van Zieks was responsible.
He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident.
So he must have had a solid alibi then.
Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences.
Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial.
And the impact that revelation would have on the British public cannot be understated.
Is that why it's a closed trial?
Precisely. This country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years.
So the last one was the Professor's, the trial of Genshin Asugi.
Correct.
Actually, we heard that originally you were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart.
Van Zieks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later, with the son of the man Van Zieks had condemned, now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way.
They do say that what goes around comes around.
However, it would seem that the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well.
Cosmez?
I like my organization to run smoothly, in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single clock being out of step with the others.
Ah, so that's what all these gears are about in here.
If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I will be forced to take steps.
What do you mean?
Not something with which you need to concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I have been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours.
Oh my, that is a long time.
And I hold you entirely responsible.
Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes? I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Asogi?
Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go. You can find him in his office.
Oh, thank you. Let's go to see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo. Cosmo's my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment. Well, we'll just have to go in there and see what happens. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it? Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself. Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor Japanese style in that dark corner. It's his habit to sit Seiza style when he's working. Not this time. Kazuma.
I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Rinosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I?
Sorry? that you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you fulfill your dreams of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor.
Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I am truly happy for you. And I am truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Megatoba. Rinosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London, about how Susato-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jigoku, and about what happened with your father. Then you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma.
As you wish, Rinosuke Naruhodo. Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream.
Mark my words, Rinosuke, I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday.
Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here?
16 years ago. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Megatoba, your father, Susato-san. Oh my! Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at Yume. I will be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh! Then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life.
What did it say?
It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name. Oh no! As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. Presumably, the letter was sent from Presumably, the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer.
I'm sorry you had to find out that way.
I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem. But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him.
What? Why not?
Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him,
and he'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jiguku. To the other visiting student. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily, before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. It's getting on for a year now since what happened on the SS Buria. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something you have to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship, and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, it must have been. Presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded street of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I had escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose. That's right. And on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I'd moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So, how did you end up becoming Lord Van Zieg's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. Yes, I did. What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Rinetsuke Naruhodo. Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the Inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who has been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Barak Van Zieks is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper. Right. Kazuma, this is your armband. Actually, I think it's yours now. Sorry? You're the defense lawyer. You have a talent for it. I've always known that you would. And now you've chosen to take that path in life. As your friend, I couldn't be happier for you, or more proud. Kazuma. So you keep hold of that. Besides, I'm a persecutor now. That armband would have no meaning for me. Well, if you're sure, thank you, my friend. I was shocked when I found out that they were related to the case. The Red-Headed League, I mean. Personally, it wasn't their plan to swindle everyone that surprised me. It was the fact that so many red-headed people gathered from all over London that day. A certain great detective being among them. I expect those two are in their cells as we speak, wishing they'd never dreamt up their little plan. Or maybe they're busy plotting their next one. Kazuma, what do you make of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence, the courtroom. So it seems you're still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend is always gonna have the edge over me, isn't he? Alright. Kazuma, what do you make of this? The Reaper, at last. I get to take my revenge. Kazuma. Lord Van Zieks isn't responsible for your father's death, and he's not the Reaper. He's the defendant and deserving of a fair trial. You mean like the one my father had? It's a closed trial now, too. The conditions are exactly as they were 10 years ago. And even if it ruffles some feathers, I have a plan to show that man for what he really is. Kazuma. Okay. Kazuma, what do you make of this? This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report? Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died on the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too. So I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gori. If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. By Barclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life. Kazuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Rinosuke, I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I return it to you. Karama is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're a chip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karama, is the symbol of the Asogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Karama? It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had the sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Rinosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zeeks given what happened, but the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated? Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. That man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow, by whatever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you'll do what you have to do as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Until tomorrow, then, in the Old Bailey. Yeah, exactly. Kazuma, what do you make of this? Kazuma, what do you make of this? Kazuma, what do you make of this? Alright. Before we go, Lord Van Zeeks' fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles, all neatly lined up. Yes, he's extremely particular about all that. He has a strict regime for everything, from the storage of the casks to the bottling of their contents. Gosh, you must be having a really tough time of it being his apprentice. Actually, no. Oh? He's so particular about it all, he refuses to let anybody else touch any of it. So it's been quite easy for me, in fact. Talk about weird. There's Lord Van Zeek's incredibly stylish desk. It's not my style, though. No, I noticed you've been working at the little table on the floor, kneeling down Caesar style. I thought it was some kind of punishment set up by Lord Van Zeeks when I first saw it. I find it the most comfortable way to work. I can't do it. After a couple of minutes of sitting with my legs folded under me, they started to go tingly. Don't exaggerate, Renasuke. We both know you can't even manage a minute. No arguments here, my friend. What the? It's a scale model of the crime scene. Oh, yeah, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case? Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Do you know who the man in the portrait is? Why would I? What? But you're Lord Van Zeek's apprentice. Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture. Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture. I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with. Fair enough. What? You disturbed the bats, did you? Fitting companions of Lord Van Zeeks, wouldn't you say? Actually, I've seen things flying in Lord Strongheart's office too. Doves, I think. Perhaps you have to like birds to attain rank in the judiciary here. Although bats aren't birds, of course. They're mammals, yeah. How about a sparrow for you? What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Sorry, just thinking out loud. Casks floor to ceiling, just like the last time we were here. Hollowed barrels, I suppose. They're arranged according to vintage, flavor, and region. Every week, they're all taken out and put back in order. What? Every week? Lord Van Zeeks can't seem to settle on the perfect way of arranging them, you see. Vintage, flavor, and region don't neatly coincide. That's the trouble. Gosh, being his apprentice must be a real challenge. Actually, no. Oh? He considers the task too important to entrust to anybody else, so he does it entirely on his own. So he's a barrel of laughs here and in court, then? Barrels of fun. Alright, I guess we're done. Yep. Alright. See you later, Kazuma. Let's go visit the doctor. This place really is creepy, isn't it? Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected. But actually, there's a rather pleasing scent of roses in the air. Well, being a dead room, the corner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. Iris, do you think we could change the subject? What was that? Dr. Gory?
What?
That noise before.
I was sharpening my tools. I'd be dead beat if I didn't keep a perfectly keen edge on them.
Right.
Been following the collagen fibers in the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel cuts like cheese. Would you like a demonstration?
Oh, yes, please. I'd love to see.
Then, I think you'll do nicely.
Huh? No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time. Was that a tut? Well, we came here to ask questions, so... Okay. Let's examine the place first. I don't think it's changed a lot since last time, but... a table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? It might be best not to ponder it too deeply.
That's Mama's dissection table. It's too high for me, though.
It is?
If I fell from that height in my sleep, it would really hurt.
What? You mean you sleep in here?
Autopsy work is very involved. It's usually too late to think about going home when I'm finished. But I have bad dreams when I sleep here, and I always end up falling onto the floor. So I'd like to exchange that table for a lower one.
Maybe you should just go home. Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. I suppose they're fruit liquors or something. Or like the pickled yumabushi plums we make back home. Yes, let's assume there's something completely innocent like that.
Ah, that jar you're looking at up there contains monkey brains.
Oh my.
The composition is similar to the human brain, so they make for interesting study material. And in the next jar along, we have monkey...
No more monkey anythings. Please.
If you say so.
Oh dear. The time when I still thought it was just some pickled yumabushi plums seems so long ago already. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. These ones here are labeled highly toxic. Ugh, that's worrying, because there are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. This looks different to before. Of course, Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Gory is a young maiden. She has all sorts of charming little dolls and the like around her place of work, look. Oh yeah, you're right. Perhaps she's not so strange after all.
They're how I practice.
Sorry?
Mama always says that operations and dissections require speed and accuracy. So I take out my needle, insert and stitch 3 new dolls every day.
Oh, right.
I used to make livers or kidneys or intestines, but Mama told me to make something more friendly instead.
That's quite different to what I'd imagined. That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. Ugh, I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like your Dharma doll on display in the office instead. Thanks. Well, look at this! What a magnificent display case! The cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen, and the intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they?
It's 10 people.
Pardon?
It's made from the bones of 10 different people, all mixed together. Some of my best work.
I was admiring the case, actually. The scary skeleton inside is something I intend to ignore as best as I can.
You are strange.
I wonder who is the strangest. Oh, okay. I guess that's the end of that, huh? Alright. Doctor, let's talk. We have actually met before. I am a lawyer, if you remember.
You're not dead yet.
What?
So Mama said I wasn't to cut you open. She's so strict about things like that.
Well, good. Dr. Scythe has some scruples at least. Oh dear. It looks like she's not interested in talking to us. For the time being, anyway. For the time being? You mean until we die? I hope that's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen. Huh. A way to make her listen. Would you be interested in this? Could I ask your opinion about this?
Don't forget, you're responsible for putting my Mama in jail. Why should I help you?
Oh, okay. You want to play that game, huh? Alright. Maybe we'll leave for now? Are you sure we've asked everything we need to, Mr. Naruhodo? Huh. So there's something in here that we can present? Maybe this? Could I ask your opinion about this? Okay. Why should I help you? Okay. You want to play with this doll, maybe? No? Okay. Oh. Hold on. There we go. Dr. Gory, we actually came here to ask you about this.
He was very good.
Good? Sorry?
His skin didn't snag in my blade once, and very little mess. His joints dislocated easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with.
We can skip those details. But there is one thing about the report that's caught my attention. You don't seem to have recorded the time of death. That's not my fault. Oh, that made me jump. Then please, tell us what happened. So, why doesn't this autopsy report include the victim's time of death then? It's really the most crucial detail.
I was told not to write it.
What? By whom?
My old Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He came here.
Lord Strongheart came?
He said that from the witness statements about the gunshot and the other evidence, it was obvious. The man clearly died at 5 p.m. on the 1st of November, when the gunshot was heard.
But that's not the time of death you wrote on the report. You didn't write anything. Was there some reason you didn't include it? Dr. Gorey, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, then sooner or later you're going to go to the same way as your mother. Give it here then. What's she scribbling so furiously? There. You've written... What? What's you written? Tell us. Indeterminate? But... what do you mean by that? Why was the time of death indeterminate?
When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh, so the time of death could easily have coincided with when the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy.
What discrepancy?
There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat, and that fish had started to rot.
What?
If the victim liked fried fish, he presumably liked to eat it before it went off.
Yeah. What are you really trying to say?
It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death.
Manipulate the... Is that even possible to do?
Theoretically, if you were to chill the body in ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. And if the overcoat wasn't on the body at the time,
Then only the fish would have started to rot.
with today's science, it's not yet possible to determine if the body was chilled or not.
But today's science is advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems. But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator. And I don't imagine many households in London are equipped with such a device.
No, definitely not. But maybe in a factory or some other special places.
I don't recall seeing any factories or such like on Fresno Street though. I wonder if the inspector's body had been chilled somehow, what might the actual time of death have been?
I couldn't say for sure. But at the most, it might have been a day earlier. No.
In other words, it would corroborate your previous deduction, Mr. Naruhodo. That Inspector Gregson was killed the day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Did you inform Lord Strongheart of this possibility?
He simply said that there were no electrical refrigerators of that size in the vicinity.
Oh yeah, one other thing. It's something the governor of Barclay Prison told us. He said that your mother, Dr. Scythe, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution.
The professor...
Apparently you always enjoyed listening to your mother's stories about her work, so we were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago.
That's not all Mama did. Sorry? My Mama carried out the autopsy of Clint Van Zieks as well. What? Really?
A brother of Lord Van Zieks? The professor's final victim?
The idea of carrying out an autopsy on a member of the aristocracy was completely unthinkable back then. But the detective in charge of the investigation insisted that it was miraculously authorized.
The detective being Inspector Gregson, of course. Quite an accomplishment for one man.
That autopsy provided the vital clue needed to arrest the killer. And Mama was there for that historic event.
What does all this mean?
You know, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The Professor and Clint Van Zieks. They both spent their final moments before their burial on that dissection table there.
So this lab, Mama's lab, was instrumental in some of the country's most important events.
She really is proud of her mother. I wonder if you'd tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gory. You mentioned the autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks.
It was at a time when carrying out autopsies of murder victims was very unusual.
It's still not a practice that's observed in our country, even now.
It turned out that he was the professor's final victim, and when the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as a secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr. John H. Wilson. That's right, my daddy. And there was one other person present, the primary assistant. He was a visiting student from the Far East.
Wait, a visiting student? It must have been my father, Eugen Mekitoba. I had no idea Professor Mekitoba had been involved in something so important.
But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor.
So that's how they came to identify Genshin Asogi as the infamous mass murderer. Do you happen to know anything about that piece of evidence? Can you tell us any more?
Would you like to see the record for yourself?
Would that be alright?
What's the point of keeping records if people can't look at them? They're found under V at the back of those cupboards, with the other records from the last decade.
Thank you. Let's see, Van Zeeks. That's strange. What, Mr. Naruhodo? They aren't here. There's nothing under Van Zeeks.
There must be!
Perhaps somebody took them away?
No one's allowed to take documents related to the professor case out of this room. But you're right, they're gone!
Well, when was the last time somebody looked at them? Do you remember?
It was... oh yeah, I remember now. It was 2 years ago. A consulting detective came one day saying that he'd like to see the records.
No, you don't mean...
Harlock Sholmes was his name.
Ugh. Deep down I knew that was coming.
Do you think he stole the records?
Oh no, surely not. Iris, that can't be right. Can it? Iris?
The professor's execution was Mama's first big case. She had to be in attendance at Barclay Prison's execution chamber and sign the certificate to confirm the convict's death. Mama is the best coroner in the world, you know. I was so proud of her.
But the execution didn't actually take place.
No, and worse still, Mama actually helped with the jailbreak.
I didn't want to know.
Oh dear, you found out recently, you mean?
I believed in her, in Mama, but now I wonder if I'm starting down the same path as her.
You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? But that's because Lord Strongheart forbade you from including it.
Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too.
Yes, that's my feeling as well.
There's no doubt that there were powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution couldn't have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been in on it as well.
The big man with the little handcuffs, according to what he told us. He was tricked by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Of course he said that. I'd say the same thing. Just who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? Bruno. I hope you don't mind, but... What is it, Iris?
I've just remembered something very important I have to do. I'm going to have to leave you now.
This is very sudden, Iris. Well, we'll come with you then.
Oh, no, there's no need. You now can take your time here. Bye for now, then. Good luck. Wait a minute, little girl. Me? I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you?
Have you, Iris?
Yeah, 2 years ago, when that detective came. You were with him, weren't you? You were living specimens then too?
That's the way it usually works, yes.
Was I? I really don't remember. Anyway, sorry, but I must dash.
Wait, Iris.
I'll brew up a pot for you when you get home.
What's the matter with her? She's behaving really strangely all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either.
It's been quite a while since I had any visitors. This was really fun. But next time you come, I'd prefer it if you're ready for dissection.
I can't make any promises, sorry. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint Van Zeeks' autopsy have disappeared. But I think we've asked all we came to ask now. It's time for us to go. Back to the crime scene? Or back here? No, okay. Here we are back at the crime scene. The room on Fresno Street. Hey. The police are still busily investigating in here then. But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Yeah, it has been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Perhaps she's not investigating on her own, practicing what her boss taught her. Well, I expect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait? Actually, there's something different about this room since the last time we were here, isn't there? We could always use the time to investigate more thoroughly. Right, yeah, something does immediately come to my attention. The photograph of Mrs. Vigil. Realizing the identity of this lady was a very great clue to exposing Mr. Gossip's true identity. He obviously loves his wife very dearly, which is why he felt he couldn't tell her the truth. The transformation was incredible, wasn't it? Just from that big twisted lip. Yes, he went to extraordinary efforts to play the part of Hugh Boone convincingly. Although it didn't really seem like it was much of an effort to me. Now you say it, I have to agree. It's almost as if that was Mr. Vigil's true character. People really are very hard to fathom at times. Tell me about it. There are details of cases stretching back over 10 years on this notice board. Yes, a history of Lord Van Zeeks' defeats in court. I don't think that's an appropriate description. Although, when you consider everything on the board, it is certainly true that all of these people had a background of dubious dealings. And in the end, of course, the board itself concealed the inspector's own death. Oh my, it really doesn't bear thinking about. using a candle as a timer device. Very ingenious, I must say.
Yes, the culprit arranged it so that the firecracker would be set off at 5 o'clock, and then left.
So that loud bang was heard at precisely the moment Lord Van Ziek's... Oh. So that a loud bang was heard at precisely the moment Lord Van Ziek's arrived, yes. If only he hadn't picked up that gun from the floor.
Something you probably told yourself once upon a time, I imagine.
Yeah, I learned that lesson by bitter experience. I would have turned and run a mile for sure.
Which may not have done you any favors either.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever. I'd never have imagined that this little figurine would turn out to be a watch winding key.
I suppose it's a policeman because the pocket watch was a gift from Scotland Yard. It seems there was much more to Inspector Gregson than we ever realized. He was clearly a brilliant man.
It's the fish and chips that threw us off. I feel as though it ruined his image.
I really don't think we should blame one of Britain's staple cuisines.
But think about it. Imagine if it was Mr. Sholmes. How would you feel if instead of that old briar pot that's always in his hand, Mr. Sholmes had a bag of chips?
Rather disappointed, if I'm honest.
Exactly. If it turns out that Gregson didn't actually die in here at all, where on earth could he have been killed?
Well, one way or another, we must find out, for the inspector's sake. You know, you look awfully pale again today, Mr. Naruhodo.
Sorry. When I start thinking it all through, I conjure up some horrible images in my mind.
Your imagination is the culprit here, then. Most certainly guilty.
It catches your eye as soon as you enter the room, doesn't it?
It's such a bright color, it certainly makes an impression, yes.
They can't possibly commit any crimes, can they? I mean, redheads stand out like a sore thumb.
I'm afraid with our jet black Japanese hair, we stand out almost as much here in London.
I suppose that's true.
You mustn't think of committing any crimes, Mr. Naruhodo.
I wasn't! This revolver, just who does it belong to?
Well, we know it's one of the type issued to members of the police force and judiciary,
but Gregson's own gun was found in his person.
And of course, Lord Van Zieks has admitted to losing the firearm with which he was issued. Such absent-mindedness, not dissimilar to you, Mr. Naruhodo.
I'm starting to think the cold, hard prosecutor and I could become friends after all.
Then I wish you every success.
Yeah, so do I. Alright. This little trunk wasn't here before, was it?
Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs. There are some initials on the outside. Look. T.G.
Let's ask one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here. Oi, what do you think you're doing? That's my trunk, that is. Hands off.
Gina.
Where were you hiding? I don't know. You leave something unattended for a few seconds, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry has got its greedy eyes on it. Just a wild guess, Gina, but what? Spit it out, Odo.
Is it fair to say that you've only owned that trunk since this morning's trial?
What? What are you trying to say? Come on, this trunk goes with me everywhere. Always has. Where have you been the last year?
Trying not to incur your wrath, mainly.
You should hear them talking in the yard now. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them bludgers.
You mean the whole Reaper thing?
Yeah. Apparently the boss was investigating stuff that no one else at the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals what got off scot-free. Yeah, the ones prosecuted by Lord Van Zieks who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction. Well then, obviously, it was that bloomin' Reaper giving the orders, wasn't it? But why would people be suspecting Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killings? There was a notebook in his office. Oh no, this doesn't sound good. It had details about old crimes that had been pegged as Reaper's work. What? No. Did you see it, Gina? Did you see that notebook? They wouldn't flaming let me. Cause I'm just an apprentice, apparently. But it was me who found it, and he was my boss. That's right. I was pretty miffed about it, so I just need to pick out what it said anyway. Oh, that's our Gina. So, you managed to see what was written in Gregson's secret notebook anyway, did you? Why, I see it. It's my right to read what he wrote. And what he had written? What had he written, Gina? Dates, times, places, names, and a whole long list of them. All details about the bludgers supposed to have been done in by the Reaper. But there could be an explanation for that. Perhaps it was a record of the inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities. Exactly, that's what I said. That's the first thing you'd think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognized anyway. Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known leaders of known criminal underworld. Well, yeah, but there was one name right at the end that was a bit odd. At the end of the list, you mean? I'm pretty sure the date against it was 31st of October. Oh, the day before the inspector was found dead. So, what was the odd name? It weren't like a name I've ever seen before. It was something like, nah, it's no good. I can't remember it. I don't think it was an English name, put it that way. Oh dear, what a pity. There was something else too. I don't know if it matters, but the same name kept coming up over and over. Shin, it was. Don't suppose it means anything, but... Did you say Shin? Eh? What? It does mean something. Lord Van Zieks knew the name too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now we find out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina? Well, course not. I've been busy, ain't I? Investigating and that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened. The day before? That would be the undercover investigation to the Red-Headed League, then. Only the boss didn't go, did he? You found some cove what was pretending to be him, didn't you, Otto? Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Tree that day, posing as Gregson. Well, anyway, you ain't the only one turning stuff up. I've got my own ways of getting results. When me and my partner here get together, there's nothing we can't track down. Oh, a little Toby. He is such a faithful friend. So, have you tracked anything down then? What do you think, eh? Course we have. Can't tell you though. Police business, innit? Ugh. Anyway, the point is, if you lot ever need any help, you know who to turn to, right? Me and the airline there. Right, because he looks oh so hellish, honest. Gina, about your hellhound there. Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's a part of the force, he is.
In Japanese, police dog means something quite different, and not altogether nice to those involved in crime. But here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems. For a canine, at least.
It should be. After all, in the Great Exhibition case the other day, it was Toby here who managed to locate Drebber's workshop. Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what this super dog can do, eh? Do we have something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of, I wonder? Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. A Chief Inspector said woof to that, Addo. Yes, I heard.
I think perhaps that particular item didn't excite him very much.
Ain't you got nothing else?
I'll have a think.
Try again. Oh, good. I can't do a quick skip. Okay. I gotta think very carefully about this then. I don't know. The gun, I guess? Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. Sniff and sniff. I heard. Didn't excite him. Okay.
What could I show? Let's see.
Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. Then I don't know. I don't have any idea. Maybe I'm supposed to leave here? Come back later? Can I examine the box again? No, she took it. What the hell? What am I supposed to give him then? Stupid fucking dog. Supposed to be the best nose, but he can't smell anything. Not when he likes it. Not when he feels like it. If he can't smell the gun, he can't smell the papers, autopsy. I don't know what to present. I don't know what to do. Let's see. What does Sasato have to say? Are you sure we've asked everything we need to? Yeah. No, we have to present something right now. From this assortment of evidences, there's something we need to present. Alright, let's try again. What is there to present? What is there to present? Something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of. Something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of. Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. Okay. Oh! He might be a little too keen, don't you think? Oh! What the? Chief Inspector made short work of Gina there. Look what he's gone to. Oh my, that trunk clearly still has a very strong scent. Of Inspector Gregson. In other words, it must have belonged to him.
Oh, alright. It's a fair cop, I suppose.
And you nearly got away with it, too. You always talk so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what it can achieve. Did it not cross your mind that he might identify something that was right next to us?
Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, wasn't it?
That's enough for now. That's enough now, then, Gina.
Eh?
I think it's time you told us the truth about that trunk. There we go.
It weren't like that. It just weren't.
What are you talking about?
I know what's going through that head of yours, but that ain't what happened.
Alright then, what did happen?
Well, like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby here have a whiff of the boss's overcoat. And as soon as I done that, he went off like a shot. Straight to that sandwich.
To a sandwich? Not a bag of chips? Mr. Naruhodo, I believe Gina means the witness.
Oh, I forgot about that sandwich. Yeah, he had it eaten between them wooden bows of his. The boss's trunk.
You mean when they heard the sound like a gunshot and all piled in here?
Exactly. He nabbed it from the scene.
Goodness.
Me and the Chief Inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling. And you know what he said? I thought it might fetch a good price. And the chap wouldn't be needing it anymore, so... But that's all I did. No, and would you have him leave a cheek of it, eh? Sealing that boss's stuff to flog.
So Miss Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime then. How could they?
So anyway, that's how it happened. And it's a pretty decent trunk, so I figured it might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh? Well?
Maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together. I think perhaps that trunk should be turned over to the police, don't you?
What are you on about? I am the police.
Gina, if you wouldn't mind, could we maybe examine it?
Yeah, alright, and do what you want with it.
Thank you. We shall make a detailed record of our examination of the evidence. Here we go. Grrr. What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden? Mr. Naruhodo, be careful! It must be the trunk!
Toby, oi, what are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off.
Mr. Naruhodo! Mr. Naruhodo! Gina, quickly! Hail a carriage!